Welcome to this series of videos about how to improve the transparency, reproducibility and quality of your research, called TReQ for short. My name is Gesche Hübner, and with my colleagues Nicole Watson and Mike Fell, I will be speaking about how and why to introduce TReQ into your research. I will start with a little example. You might have heard of the paper Growth in the Time of Debt that showed that countries with a high level of debt had lower economic growth. This paper was highly influential in justifying economic austerity policies. However, when another team of researchers requested access to the data and was granted it, they realized that some mistakes had been made in the analysis that actually changed the conclusions. So could this mistake have been avoided if the data had been shared from the onset? Could greater transparency have avoided this problem? This is just one of those examples, and we will speak in detail about how using transparency, reproducibility and quality in research can help to create better science. In these videos, we will also discuss why TReQ can be particularly challenging in applied multidisciplinary research, like energy, where the three of us work. We will take you through 4 tools you can use to improve the TReQ of your research: pre-registration of studies, reporting guidelines, preprints, and open data and open code. For each, we will cover how the approach is used, what the benefits are for you as a researcher, but also for science more generally. Alongside, we will also discuss commonly cited drawbacks. In the final video, we'll draw it all together and show you how you can implement the TReQ tools into your workflow. We will also share the TReQ list with you, a checklist which you can use to document how you've been using tools to promote the TReQ of your own research.
One thing I think we can all agree on is that research needs to be as high a quality as possible. If we're to solve big societal challenges such as climate change, biodiversity loss, pandemics, and more, we need the evidence underpinning the solutions that we propose to be valid and reliable. A big part of that is allowing other researchers to check our work and describing studies in enough detail to see exactly how they were done. This, or the principle that every scientist should make the essential components of their work visible to other scholars, is what we mean when we talk about transparency. So why is transparency so important? First of all, it allows other researchers to see exactly how your study was carried out. This can be really important for helping to spot errors and biases, and also thinking about what other situations you might expect or not expect your findings to apply to. Secondly, it means that other research teams can go out and do your study again themselves. The idea that independent studies testing the same thing should produce broadly the same results is known as reproducibility. If a finding is reproducible, we can have more confidence that it's robust and it wasn't just a one-off fluke. You might have heard about the reproducibility crisis, where results in medicine, psychology, and economics were found not to reproduce when the studies were done again by independent teams.
So looking at the length of lots of research papers, you might be forgiven for thinking that levels of transparency are already pretty high. But there are actually plenty of ways that important details can be lost or glossed over in the reporting. One example is harking, or hypothesizing after results are known. Here, a researcher might run an experiment, get the results, then report them as if they were always what they expected. Another is p-hacking, where researchers tweak aspects of their analysis to make sure that statistically significant results are obtained. These, and other so-called questionable research practices, are likely driven at least in part by publication bias. This is the failure to publish the results of a study on the basis of the direction or strength of the study findings. While the idea of making our work more transparent and reproducible sounds sensible, it isn't always easy. And this can be especially the case in applied, multidisciplinary subject areas like energy, water, food, and so on. Because of the wide variety of different approaches and methods used, it can be hard to agree on a set of good practice approaches that work for everyone. Also, there's a recognition that findings will go out of date. For example, we'd all expect that people's concerns about electric vehicles today would be quite different to what they're likely to be in 5 years' time. In some areas of research, like ethnography for example, it might not even make sense to think in terms of reproducibility at all. And finally, research in these areas is often based around large, expensive, time-consuming trials that can't easily be rerun to test the results. Nevertheless, transparency, quality, and, where relevant, reproducibility remain important and achievable in applied multidisciplinary research areas. In our TReQ recommendations, we've focused on approaches that are applicable in a broad range of areas, that are flexible in terms of how they can be used, and have got a low barrier to entry. That is, they're easy to pick up and get started with. So let's jump in.